This is not just a story. This is revenge.
She wore white. She cried at the altar. She held my dad's hands and looked him in the eyes and said, "I've never loved anyone the way I love you." And I stood there, in my bridesmaid dress, holding a bouquet I didn't want to hold, and I thought to myself, she's lying. Every single word of it. A lie. I knew it that day. I just couldn't prove it. Not yet. Okay. Let me back up. My name's not important. What is important is that I'm 27 years old. I have one dad, and about 2 years ago, that dad, my smart, successful, very wealthy dad, lost his mind over a 25-year-old woman named Vanessa. My dad is 54. He built his own construction company from scratch, started with nothing, worked every single day of his life, and turned it into something worth a lot. I mean, a lot. We're talking multiple properties, a vacation house in Florida, investments, the whole thing. My mom passed when I was 19. Cancer. It was devastating. For both of us. Dad was alone for about 4 years after that. Quiet, focused on work. I honestly thought he was okay with being by himself. He always said, "I had the best, I don't need to replace her." And then, Vanessa happened. He met her at some charity event his company sponsored. She was working the registration table. 25 years old, gorgeous, bubbly, laughing at every single thing he said. Within 6 months, they were in love. Within 10 months, he proposed. They got married 11 months after they met. I want you to sit with that timeline for a second. 11 months. Now, look, I tried to give her a chance. I really did. I told myself, okay, she's young, but maybe she genuinely loves him. Maybe age doesn't matter. Maybe she saw something real in him. But then the little things started adding up. The first time I noticed something was off, and I mean truly off, was about 3 weeks after they started dating seriously. Dad invited her over for Sunday dinner. Just the 3 of us. I made pasta. Tried to be welcoming, and at one point she excused herself to go to the bathroom. Dad got a phone call for work, stepped outside to take it. And I'm sitting there alone, and her phone, which is face up on the table, lights up. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't even trying to look. But the notification was right there. It said, "You still wearing that ring or nah?" From someone saved as just. I froze. I looked up. Dad was still outside, pacing. I looked back at the phone. The notification was still there for like 5 more seconds, then the screen went dark. She came back from the bathroom, sat down, picked up her phone, and smiled at whatever she saw. Typed back something super quick, flipped it face down, and I just watched her. She didn't look guilty. She looked casual, like this was normal. That moment stuck with me, but I told myself, maybe it's nothing. Maybe it was a joke, an inside thing between friends. Maybe Dee is just a cousin. But deep down I already knew. I started paying attention differently after that, not obsessively. But I noticed things, like how Vanessa never talked about her past. Like, at all. Every time the topic of exes came up, at dinner, in conversation, she'd deflect. Change the subject. Laugh it off. "Oh, I don't want to bore you with that," she'd say. My past is boring. A 25-year-old woman with a boring past. Right. I also noticed how she talked about money. She'd always find a way to bring it up casually, like she'd mention how much a trip cost. Or she'd say things like, "I just love that you're so stable, baby. I've dated so many broke guys." And my dad would laugh like it was a compliment. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there like, "What? You just called my dad a stable investment." But the biggest red flag, the one I couldn't shake, came about 2 months before the wedding. I was visiting Dad's house. He was at the office. Vanessa was home alone. I let myself in with my key. Normal, I've been doing that my whole life, and I heard her on the phone. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop. I walked in. She was in the kitchen, back turned to me, and she was on the phone talking. I heard her say, I know. Just a few more months. After the wedding, I'll have access to everything. Can you just be patient? I stopped walking. She must have heard me, because she turned around, and the look on her face. I've never seen someone recover so fast, like a switch flipped. She smiled, hung up the phone, said, "Oh my God, you scared me. Hey girl, your dad didn't tell me you were coming." I smiled back. "Sorry," I said. Didn't mean to interrupt, and she laughed and said she was just on the phone with her sister about wedding stuff. I nodded, and I walked into the kitchen and I poured myself a glass of water. And I thought, that wasn't her sister. I didn't say anything to my dad. Not yet. Because here's the thing, I had no proof, just a gut feeling. A weird text I wasn't supposed to see, and a phone call I wasn't supposed to hear. That's not enough to blow up your father's relationship with the woman he thinks he loves. But I started thinking. And planning. And that's when I decided to do a little digging.
I'm not a detective, but I know how to find things. I started with social media, went through every single one of Vanessa's profiles. Instagram, Facebook, old posts, tagged photos. Her Instagram was perfect. Too perfect, curated, aesthetic, no man tagged anywhere. But Facebook had a ghost. An old photo, 4 years ago. Her and a guy, arm in arm, both smiling. And on her finger, an engagement ring. The guy's name was Dylan. I felt my stomach drop. I found his profile, still public. 5 years of photos together. Vacations, holidays. Her smiling in his family's living room on Christmas. And then, abruptly, nothing. 1 year before she met my dad. No breakup post, no explanation, just gone. I messaged him. Simple. Direct. "I believe you knew someone named Vanessa. My father is about to marry her. I have concerns. Can we talk?" Hit send. Waited, he replied in 20 minutes. And what he said changed everything. Dylan wasn't angry. He was wounded. The quiet kind of wounded, where someone's been hurt so deep they've gone numb about it. We moved to a phone call within an hour. He told me everything. 5 years together. Engaged after year 3. Wedding date already set. He wasn't rich, but he was solid. Good job, own apartment, real future. Then one day, no big fight, no warning, she sat him down, said she wasn't in love anymore, gave back the ring, walked out. He thought she just fell out of love. Until a mutual friend told him the truth. She'd been on dating apps the entire last year of their relationship, specifically targeting wealthy older men, Dylan said. She used me as a placeholder while she found her upgrade. I felt sick. And then, he said something that made my hands go cold. "She still has my engagement ring." Said she lost it. I asked twice. I asked him, what did it look like? Oval cut diamond. White gold band. Small, but elegant. I thought back to that notification on her phone. You still wearing that ring or nah? Oh my God. She was still wearing Dylan's ring. And Dylan had receipts, screenshots, voice notes, photos, everything. He'd been sitting on it for months, waiting for a reason to use it. I just gave him one.
Dylan had receipts. That's the part that floored me. He'd kept everything, screenshots of texts. A voice note she sent him once, while they were still together, talking about how she needed to find security and was done struggling. Photos of her wearing the ring, a video from their engagement party. He had all of it. And he'd been sitting on it because he didn't know what to do. His friends told him to let it go, move on. He tried. But he said when I reached out, it felt like the universe giving him permission. We came up with a plan. It wasn't crazy, it wasn't dramatic, it didn't involve showing up somewhere uninvited or making any scene, it was elegant. I told him, my dad's family does a big quarterly dinner. All the aunts and uncles, grandparents, cousins. My dad uses it as a kind of informal family meeting, updates on the business, life stuff, whatever. The next one was about 3 weeks away. Vanessa had been to 2 of these already. She loved them. Always dressed up, always charming, always working the room. She was so good at performing. I decided that dinner was going to be her final performance. Here was the plan. I was going to put together a presentation. A digital slideshow, disguised as a welcome to the family tribute for Vanessa, something I'd been working on. Everyone would think it was sweet. My dad would be touched. And then the slideshow would include Dylan's receipts, the texts, the voice note, the engagement photos, the ring, all of it, right there on the screen, in front of everyone my dad has ever loved. But, and this is important, before I did any of that, I needed to give my dad a chance to hear it privately. Dylan actually pushed for this. He said, if your dad finds out in front of an audience and he feels humiliated, he might not even believe it. He'll go into defense mode. He was right. Dylan was smarter than I expected. So 2 weeks before the dinner, I asked my dad for a coffee date. One-on-one. Just us. This was the hardest part. I want to be honest with you. This wasn't fun. This wasn't satisfying. Not yet. Sitting across from my dad, who looked genuinely happy for the first time in years, and knowing I was about to potentially destroy that, it hurt. I almost backed out twice on the drive over. But then, I thought about that phone call I overheard. Just a few more months. After the wedding, I'll have access to everything. And I kept driving. I sat down with him at his favorite coffee shop. He ordered his usual. He was in a good mood. Talking about a project the company was working on, he looked lighter than he had in years. I waited for a pause. And then I said, Dad, I need to show you something. And I need you to promise you'll hear me out all the way to the end before you say anything. He looked at me, and I think he knew right then that something was coming. His whole face changed. I showed him everything. The Facebook post, Dylan's profile, the screenshots of their conversation, Dylan's number so he could verify it was real, the texts Vanessa sent, the voice note, the ring photos. I told him about the phone call I overheard in his kitchen. I told him about the text notification I saw. I laid it all out. Calm, no crying, no drama, just evidence. He was silent the entire time. When I finished, he sat back in his chair, looked out the window, didn't say anything for what felt like a full minute. Then he said, How long have you known? I told him. From the beginning, or at least from the early suspicions. He asked why I didn't come to him sooner. I said, because I love you, and I needed to be sure. I didn't want to be the daughter who runs off her dad's girlfriend because she's jealous or whatever. I wanted to be sure. He nodded. He looked back down at the phone, at the photos, and then he said something I'll never forget. He said, She's still wearing that boy's ring? And I said, Yes. He closed his eyes, and I could see it. The exact moment something broke inside him. He didn't blow up. He didn't call her right there. He didn't make a scene. My dad is not that kind of man. Instead, he looked at me and said, very quietly, We're still having that family dinner. I didn't fully understand what he meant. Not right away. But I was about to find out. The night of the quarterly family dinner, Vanessa showed up in a red dress, hair done, makeup flawless. She was glowing. She hugged everyone, complimented my aunt's earrings, helped carry food to the table. She had absolutely no idea what was coming. Dylan was not there in person. That wasn't the plan, but everything he gave us was ready. About an hour into dinner, after everyone had eaten and the mood was warm and comfortable, my dad stood up. He said he wanted to say a few words. Normal for him at these dinners. Everyone settled down. He started talking about family, about loyalty, about how the most important thing in life is the people who are real with you, the people who actually have your back. Vanessa was smiling at him from across the table, reaching over to squeeze his hand, and then he said, "I also want to address something. Because I believe in honesty, and I believe everyone at this table deserves to know the truth about a few things." Vanessa's smile flickered. Just for a second. My dad pulled out his phone. He connected it to the TV that we use for presentations at these dinners. And then he started going through it. He showed the texts, didn't explain them, just read them out loud, calmly. He played the voice note. Vanessa's own voice, casual, confident, talking about finding a stable situation and being done with love for love's sake. He showed the engagement ring photos. Dylan wearing the ring box, Vanessa wearing it. And then he said, very calmly, "Vanessa, show everyone your right hand." The whole table went dead silent. She didn't move. My uncle leaned forward. My aunt put her hand over her mouth. My dad said it again. "Vanessa, show them your right hand." And she slowly raised her right hand, the oval-cut diamond, white gold band, small but elegant, sitting right there on her finger, in my dad's family's dining room. That ring had never been his. My grandmother actually gasped. Vanessa tried to talk. Started with "This isn't what it looks like," and my dad, still completely calm, said, "You can go." Not yelling, not dramatic, just done. She looked around the table. At my aunts, at my uncles, at me. I didn't smirk, I didn't smile. I just looked at her evenly. She grabbed her purse. And she walked out. No tears, no big speech, just gone. They were married at that point, remember that. So it wasn't simple. The divorce took about 4 months. My dad had a prenup, thank God, so she didn't get much. The lawyers found some additional issues with how she'd accessed certain joint accounts in those early months. She ended up walking away with basically nothing. Dylan texted me when it was finalized. Said thank you and a single emoji, a peace sign. I laughed. My dad and I had a long talk about it all afterward. He cried once. Just once. Not because he missed her, but because he felt embarrassed that he'd been so blind. I told him, she was a professional. You weren't dumb. You were just trusting. He nodded, and he said, your mom would have seen through her on day 1. I think that's true. He's doing okay now. Better than okay, honestly. He threw himself back into work, started actually taking real vacations, one of those things she was supposedly helping him do that he never actually got to do while she was running his calendar. And me? I don't feel triumphant. I want to be clear about that. I didn't enjoy any of it. Not the digging, not the dinner, not watching her leave. What I felt was something simpler. Quieter. Relief. Because I know my mom worked too hard to build what my dad has. Too many long nights, too many sacrifices. That money, that stability, it's her legacy too, and Vanessa was never gonna take it. Not on my watch. You know what's wild? Vanessa could have just been a good person. She could have gone to that dinner and stayed and built a real relationship and had a genuinely good life. My dad is a good man. A generous man. If she had loved him even a little bit, even like 30%, she probably would have been okay. But greed doesn't work like that, does it? When you only see people as resources, you stop being careful around them. She got sloppy. She got comfortable. And that comfort, that's what cost her everything. She walked into the wrong family's money. And she walked out with nothing. So here's my question for you. If you found out the person your parent was with was using them, would you say something? Or would you stay out of it? Because a lot of people told me it wasn't my place. That I should have stayed in my lane. I don't think I was wrong, but I want to know what you think. Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. And if you've been through something like this, or worse, tell me your story. Because you deserve to be heard. I'll see you in the next one.